Captina Creek is one of the cleanest creeks in the state. Today it's the job of Belmont County Soil and Water, the Captina Conservancy, and citizens like you to keep it that way. But there was a time when the lower reaches of the creek were extremely polluted. Hi, my name is Christian Gaitari. I'm a student at Olney French School, and I want to tell the story of a man who led the effort to clean up Captina. The year was 1976, and the man was Dennis Bigler. A long time.
For over 50 years.
Yes. Can you tell us a bit more about your personal experience around here?
Well, my kids are the 6th generation on a family farm. The family originally moved to the area on this farm in 1863 and moved to this part of the farm in around 1885, 1886. So the family's been around Captina for forever.
Is this your favorite spot?
This is my favorite spot on Captina, and this is my favorite spot anywhere. Is this location on Captina?
Okay. So could you tell us more about the flood, September 4th, 2004?
Yeah, the flood was in September 2004. It was related to a hurricane that had came up through the Gulf of Mexico, and it really changed the dimensions of Captina. Where there were major gravel bars like where we were standing, now they're pretty much gone, and it widened the creek. It scoured the creek down to bedrock in many places. It was the biggest flood that I've ever seen. My mother's 90 years old. It's the biggest flood she has ever seen. She lived here her entire life, so it did dramatic damage along Captina. There's been many floods. Usually there's a flood almost every year on Captina, but that was by far the worst ever.
More about
I was a sophomore in college when I started it, so I would have been approximately 21 years old when I started. I was a sophomore at High University, and you know, I think what moved me was as a kid, I've always loved nature, and this was my playground, Captina. And the days that we would come here and that me and my friends would play in the creek or wade in the creek, we would always come back. Our shorts would be stained yellow. We were moved by seeing the dead fish. We were moved by hearing others in the community talk about the way Captina used to be. My dad and my uncle was a great fisherman. My dad farmed along the creek for all his married life, and they used to tell stories of seeing in the spring fish so thick down below us here in what's called Canoe Hole. Fish so thick in the spring that you could barely see the bottom sometimes, the suckers and all the fish, and it was amazing. And my uncle would talk about gigging, which I hope was legal back then, gigging fish and bringing wash tubs or big burlap bags of fish out of the creek at night. So it was just amazing. You hear those stories, and I always liked to fish and hunt and those kind of things. And being around the creek, it had a big impact on me. And seeing the damage that was done to the stream was a big impact on me. And I guess as a college student, I was idealistic enough to think that we could make a difference.
I heard there's this project you worked on for 5 years, trying to. Could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, that's a little something different. Captina, for about half of my life, was severely polluted by acid mine drainage, and that is what's commonly called sulfur water. Where we're standing now, these rocks on the gravel bar we're standing on would be orange. Typically, you'd see a lot of foam here from wastewater plant discharges periodically, from municipal wastewater plant overflows. But the real problem was acid mine drainage that occurred from large what's called gob piles or coal refuse piles along the creek. And when water and air react with pyrite within that gob, which is waste coal, when it reacts with those mountains of coal, the water that comes out of that is severely a severe pollutant. And the creek was pretty much dead at that time. It was a famous fishing stream. Many said it was the best smallmouth bass stream in eastern Ohio. And all of that ended in the mid-1950s when the coal industry created those issues. And then there was also direct pumping of mine water They'd take a 6-inch pump and they would pump water out of the mine directly into the stream and into tributaries of the stream. And that had killed Captina. And in 1976, we started a citizens group. We being myself and a gentleman named Leonard Van Dyne, who lived on the creek and is now deceased. We started a group called the Citizens for Clean Captina Creek. And it became, according to Ohio EPA, the most active citizen organization in Ohio working on stream restoration at that time. And over a period of time, we were able to persuade the companies who were then working here on the active mine sites to stop the direct pollution of the creek. And then we still had the problem, though, of these large refuse piles. And one of the companies came in and reclaimed all of those refuse piles. And we had one that was an abandoned mine refuse pile. The mine was no longer operating. Working with a state senator named Sam Speck, we were able to, a fund was created. A severance tax was placed on coal, and a fund was created to reclaim abandoned mine sites in Ohio. And Captina was used as a model in the Ohio legislature for creating those funds, for creating that particular fund. And we were one of the first grants out of that fund, and that grant, in conjunction with some funds from the company that had bought this abandoned mine site, was used to reclaim a site about a mile from here known as the old Ogleby Norton Gob Pile. And when that was reclaimed, that's really what restored Captina Creek, and especially this stretch, because this stretch was immediately downstream from those receiving waters. That water was not only high in sulfur, but very high in metals such as aluminum. It would come out some days, it would just almost have a white look when it would enter the creek. So that started the process, and over 5 years the pollution essentially stopped, and Captina reclaimed itself in a record amount of time, far faster than anybody thought.
Right up there at Horseshoe Bend, we take maybe 100 yards up the creek, and it took us an hour to do it, and every time there's a big rock, we look under it and get a bunch of people on it.